Agnes, if you don't mind, because we're broadcasting live, could you unmute and take it away, and we'll get to Jacob after, please?
Thank you very much, Ronnie, and thank you for inviting me. My name is Agnes Igoye. I'm Deputy National Coordinator for Prevention of Trafficking in Uganda. So I'll restrict myself to issues of human trafficking. Why? Because our Ugandans have been continued to be trafficked, not just abroad, but also internally. So trafficking, the recruitment, transportation, harboring, and transfer and receipt of persons by means of fraud for purposes of exploitation. Now, exploitation, at a minimum is beyond sexual exploitation, but there's also forced labor. There's removal of organs, for witch rituals. There's also child marriage, there's forced marriage, there's a use of children in armed conflict, there's slavery or conditions similar to slavery, there's debt bondage, there's servitude. So now the trends have been, during lockdown, we had an increase of human trafficking within the country. So the most prevalent was sexual exploitation, including of children. In fact, among the children, we had 131 convictions, and we had 95 where children were exploited sexually, including by some of their parents. And some of them got pregnant. So that's the situation we had. But now that borders are open, we are seeing a situation whereby travel has resumed. So before recruitment agencies resumed operations, we saw trafficking going in the hands of individual recruiters, private people taking advantage of that vacuum. And immigration, for example, has been very key, and the police, and offloading people at the airport. I recall when they offloaded just 98, people who don't have the right documentation, to go abroad and end up being exploited, in there. And so, and exploitation and it's not only limited to the Middle East, like the media and what has always shown those words, but it's even moving, within the continent and other countries. And unfortunately, some of the people who are perpetrators are some Ugandans who are based abroad, working with other networks and taking advantage of that. And the people who are recruiting are people close to some of them close to the victims themselves. It will be your schoolmate, it will be your friend, and some relatives are doing this. And the most affected group, especially on issues of exploitation abroad, are people. Why are they the most vulnerable? Because, they work in homes, and some of them are isolated and lack the information. There are issues of language barriers. There are issues of legal exclusion. For example, some of them were not even considered when people were talking about, COVID-19 interventions. You saw our fellow Ugandans being chased out of homes. You saw the desperation. And I really want to thank members of the diaspora, some of you in here, because you really mobilized to make sure that you worked with the embassies, to return our fellow citizens home. So some of them came with nothing, somebody who went, several years ago. And some of them are in irregular status. So when you are not in a legal status anywhere, it becomes a challenge. And when you don't have a contract to work. And then there are also those difficulties related to monitoring and labor inspection, because you can imagine if we even ask who comes to your home to even ask you that, how's your domestic worker, how's your housemaid, and all that. That's the same situation, and the issues of discrimination that very well, especially during COVID-19. So what is government, doing about this? One key thing we've realized is that as a country, you cannot do it alone. So we joined fellow members of IGAD, Intergovernmental Authority of Development, because you have to negotiate as a bloc. because even if you're making bilateral labor agreements or multilateral agreements, you have to really go as a bloc. So we've joined Kenya, Ethiopia, Sudan, Djibouti, Somalia, South Sudan, Eritrea, members of IGAD, and also East African community. So that, because sometimes they play, if you're just one small country and you're negotiating, and you're talking about certain standards, they'll drop you and they go elsewhere. And you all know that we have issues of unemployment, and you cannot stop people from moving. And as IGAD countries, we've also brought in, the free movement of persons, concept, because contrary to what people may think, most of the Africans or the Ugandans move within the region. So we are saying, let's make it easier for people to move within our region. How can you have be easier to travel to Europe than going to a fellow African country because of visa restrictions or on flights, on things like that? So making it easier for free movement is one of the key issues that on agenda.
So I'll kindly ask you to stop because of the program and the time we have for other.
So my friend, my colleague Jacob is going to talk about issues of passport and all that, but really to call upon that let's look out for our fellow Ugandans who are out there, take advantage of the embassies, as keep in touch, with the, embassies, and also the Diaspora, office at the Ministry of Internal Affairs, Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development, as we also work with the recruitment agencies to make sure that we make recruitment, fair, legal, so that people can move freely and across borders in a good way. So I thank you very much, and some of the issues will come in the Q&A if there is. So I give it to Jacob if he's available now. Thank you.